All right, welcome back to Photoshop. So today what we're going to take a look at is color grading inside of Adobe Photoshop. And we're going to go a little bit further into color grading and how do you actually pick the colors that you can use that will actually work in color grading. Now, Photoshop by default has colors in it that you can select from. So I'm going to show you some different ways that you can select colors inside of Photoshop already. And then I'm going to show you how to use Adobe color themes and pick either pre-picked colors that work together or how you can download your own. All right, so we are going to start with this image here. Color grading can be done in a variety of different methods. And basically, the kind of goal is basically you're adding a color to the shadows and you're adding a color to the highlights. Sometimes you're adding a color to the shadows, the highlights, and the midtones. It could be anywhere from one color to 5 colors or even more colors if you really wanted to do it. But typically you see a lot of color grading done with just 2 colors. And the question is, well, that's great, but how do you know what colors to pick and what colors go with each other? So we're going to take a look at a couple different ways to color grade. Now, the first thing that we're going to take a look at is right up here. This is one of the more simpler ways, and it is called the color lookup adjustment. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that, and it brings up an adjustment layer over here. And then as you can see right here, we have some different options. We have 3D LUT, abstract device. We're going to be just looking at 3D LUTs today, and these are by default come with Photoshop. And so you can hover over any of these, and we can just say, whichever one. We'll try candlelight. And when we do candlelight, it gives us that LUT and it changes the color of our image. Now we can also come in here and change this to just color. And what that does is, if you'll notice in the LUT, it actually changed the contrast a little bit in the image. So when you use a blending mode of color, it's just using the color, but the same lightness values that you had before. So we're going to go back up here to normal, and you can see this is a little bit darker. So a LUT is really made for color grading. If you were to go into Adobe Premiere or Final Cut Pro, a lot of what you'll be doing is downloading or using LUTs to create the color grading on your image. Now, one of the cool things is, since this is an adjustment layer, you can constantly change this. So if we want to go to drop blues, we can go to drop blues. If we want to go to fall colors, we can go to fall colors. And once you've done this, or even if you do come in here and change this to a different color mode, you can reduce the amount of the color grading by simply just sliding your slider. And you will reduce the amount of this adjustment layer that is over top of your image. Now, another thing that you could do, so I'm going to click on this background layer, and I'm going to actually make this layer black and white. And so I've made this layer black and white, and then we're going to change this color grading up here to make it a little bit brighter. So now, by using a black and white layer in between these two, I've removed the color and we're just kind of color grading a black and white image. So let's go ahead and try something a little bit different. So let's try horror blue, and you can see horror blue is giving us this color grade just like this. And if that's too much, I can reduce that color until I get it exactly where I want it. If I want to add some of the color back, I can simply select the black and white layer, remove some of it. So now I've got some color and some of the color lookup. So you have a whole bunch of different configurations or ways that you can colorize or color grade an image in Photoshop. That is our first one. So we are going to go ahead and remove these 2 layers here. So we will delete those and we'll go back to our original image. The next method here is going to be probably the method that I would use most often, and that is to create what we call a gradient map. We're going to remap the color. So I'm going to go ahead and click that adjustment layer. And you can see right now we got this weird orangish color. We will delete this. We're going to change this from this white to here. I'm going to hit D for default. And now you'll notice when I go to the gradient map, it picks the default colors. So whatever your default colors are is what it's going to be using for the gradient map. In this case, it's just black and white, so it's made my image black and white. Now I can reduce the amount of that gradient map and bring back some of the underlying color from the image so we get some of both. That's one option. I'm going to go ahead and bring that back up to 100%. Now we can change the color of the gradient map. By default, Photoshop once again has a whole bunch of different options. So we can click on this gradient and it brings up this thing called the gradient editor. And inside the gradient editor now in 2021, we have all these different options. So I can click on this and here are some basic ones that we have. Here are some blue ones. So let's say I like this blue one. I can select this blue one and it automatically applies this to my image. Now, when you use the gradient map, usually if you just overlay this, it's going to be way too strong. So I can hit OK and I can come in here and I can dial this back. That's one option. You'll notice it's also gotten flatter in the image by using this gradient map than it originally was before. And the reason it's gotten flatter is because it's actually applied this color to the blacks and this to the whites. So it's flattening our image out when it does that. Now we can come in here once again and just change this to color. Now we're getting the contrast back that we originally had in our image, but in this case, we're getting the color. So notice now, by switching to the color mode, it's just changing the color. It's not changing the brightness. So in this case, we have a lot of contrast. And if I go back up to normal, now you can see what it's doing. It's adding this color to our dark areas and this color to our white areas. So when we dial this out, it's actually flattening our image. So we're getting multiple looks from basically the same thing. And you can go in here and change and do this anything you want. So we have all these different options. So if I wanted to try this option or this option, and I could do both of those the same way. So I can do them where I'm dialing out a percentage of the opacity, or if I change to a color mode. Now I'm going to go back up to normal so you can see what's happening. So right now, notice it's very strong and we have the yellows over here, which are affecting the shadows, and this color is affecting our highlights. We can also reverse this so the colors are happening. The pink or magenta colors is in the shadow, and then this yellow color is in the highlights. And then I can go ahead and dial that out. So we're getting the opposite effect that we had originally. So you can easily change that by just hitting the reverse color right here. And in this case, I think this works a whole lot better than the opposite. I would go with that color. So that is way number 2 to select colors to use in a gradient map to color grade your image. So the last method we're going to take a look at is what's called Adobe Color Themes. So to get that, you're going to come up here to Window, and then you're going to go down here to Extensions, Legacy, and notice we have something called Adobe Color Themes. And so Adobe Color Themes is going to come up. You can see I've already had this up. And under the Explore option right here, it gives you some color options that you can use for color grading. So these are different options that other people have created that go together or they think looks good together. So right now we're under most popular. We can go and do most used. And so this is the most used. We can do a random selection where it does a random selection. So you can do all my themes. And so these would be ones that I have selected, even though I haven't really selected, but only a few. We'll just go back to most used. Let's say right here, this is the most used color theme. So the way that you can use these swatches, and in this case, I could use this color and this color, or I could end up using all 5 colors in a gradient as well. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and just use this Sandy Stone Beach Ocean Driver. So we're going to come over here and click on these 3 little dots. So right here, we get some options. We can edit this theme. We can add to my favorites. We can add to swatches. Now I don't have swatches up yet, and I'll show you in a second, or we can view online. So let's go out of that. We're going to go up here and we're going to bring down and we're going to go to swatches. And that's going to bring up these little swatches right here, which is exactly what we want. And so I don't have a lot going on right here. This is the new Photoshop on a new computer. So now I can come down here and click on this and say add to swatches. And just like that, bam. So we've got this color, this color, this color, this color, this color. And so we've now added this color theme to my swatches. And this is going to stay here even if I change this information around. Now, before we get rid of this, I'm going to show you the other option, which actually I love a lot. So we're going to click on this and we're going to say view online. So what that does is load Adobe color themes. And here are those color swatches. And what's cool is it gives you the hex code right there. And notice when I hover over it, it says copy it. So I can easily just hover and click and copy that code. I can also come over here and add it to a library. So I can download it. I can copy it as CSS. I can copy it as XML, whatever you want. So in my case, I'm going to download it as a JPEG. As a photographer, I'm going to use this JPEG. So I'm going to click this. You can see right down there, it's downloaded that file. And then I can go back to Photoshop and I can hit open and I can go to my downloads. And right here is that color theme. So I'll go ahead and open that, apply my color profile to it. And just like that, I've got these swatches right here. All right, so we'll go back to our original photo and we've got this gradient map. So we can click on that gradient map. So what I can do, if I want to change this color right here, I can double click on this and it brings up my color picker. And what this will allow me to do is then pick any color in here, or I can come pick a new color. So I can try to pick this color, but you'll notice when I try to pick these colors, it's not changing this color over here. And so if I come over here, notice it will pick the color. So on your swatches, you can actually pick a color, but for some reason in the color themes, you can't pick a color from that area. No, I'll show you how you can transfer a color over in a little bit. But yeah, that's kind of weird that Adobe Color Themes doesn't allow you to pick a color. This is something that I wish Adobe would change because it would make the process a lot easier. Now we can add it up here and I can click this, and just like that, I've added that dark color. So then I can come over here to the light color. And in this case, I'm going to pick the lightest color, which is going to be this color. And now we've created this split tone, which this is our highlights and this is going to be our shadow color. I'll hit OK. We'll go ahead and switch this to color. And now we're using this gradient to colorize or color grade this image. And just like before, if you wanted to take out the color and just use the gradient and not use the gradient map color, we can go ahead and put a black and white on that. I'm going to dial some of the black and white out so we pick up some of that underlying color. And this is just a completely different way to color grade this image. And in this case, we can pick any two colors. Now I could have picked any of these colors here in the swatch. Usually I'm picking the darkest and lightest color because that's the way that I like to do it. But you can pick any of these colors and any of these colors work together as a unit. So that's another way that you can pick colors to use in a gradient map or color grade your image. Now, the last thing that we're going to take a look at is what we call create. In create, we have a set of colors right here, and you can change the way that those colors look. And the way you do that is you come over here to what's called color rules. Now, we're not going to get into colored rules and what these theories are, but if I click this, you'll notice that over here we have a whole bunch of different ways in which we can generate color. So triad would be 3 different colors. So we have 1, 2, 3 triadic colors, and then they're going to be displayed up here. If you want to change those colors, you can rotate this. And as you rotate this, it will give you different colors. So if you're interested in getting something that works with this color orange, now you're getting that. If you take this, click and hold and drag it in, now you're changing the color. Notice we're not as saturated. We're getting a softer color. Now we're getting the triadic colors, but not so intense of color. We're going to come back up here. Now my favorite is actually complementary colors, but we also have compound colors, shades, and custom. And look, you just need to go through here and click on the different ones to see what they do. So monochromatic is going to give you single color. Complementary is going to give you opposite colors. So I've gone back to this original color image here, and we are in complementary colors. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to adjust these complementary colors, maybe do someplace that I like. And we're going to say, okay, those are the complementary colors that I want. So right here, we have this little swatch, and notice it's selected. And then I can come down here to says click to set active color. So what that does is it takes this color and it sends it over here to my foreground color. I'm going to hit the letter X to switch them. And then I can pick this color, and then I can click this again, set to active color. So now I've got my complementary colors over here ready to use. And I can do it with any of those colors. Now the problem is you can only do this with 2 colors. So if you ever get into the instance where you want to set multiple colors, it becomes more difficult. We're going to go ahead and use these 2 colors, and I can show you how this works. So once again, we can come up here, we can create a gradient map. And remember, when you set foreground and background colors, it automatically selects those colors and adds them to the gradient. So in this case, it makes it really easy because those were the set colors and it's automatically applying them to my gradient map. Now I can either dial some of this out, or I can change my blending mode. And you can do other blending modes besides color. You can do overlay, you could do soft light, you could do any of these. In my case, I usually just use color. And if it's too strong, I can start dialing some of that color out. Once again, color grading using these little sliders. So let's go ahead and remove this. Let's say, and I'm going to just pick a random color, that I have this color picked. This is my foreground color. Let's say I want this color to be added over here so I can get complementary colors from this color. So what I need to do is now come over, it says set selective color. And when I do that, whatever box is selected, it's going to set that color with that color. I can flip this, and now I can pick this color, and I can click here to set this as an active color, and then it switched it. Even though it doesn't look different, it is different. So now those are my active colors. I can come back up to the gradient map, do the same thing. I can hit reverse if I want to flip flop them and make them the other direction. And so that is how you're using color themes to set different colors and get gradients. Complementary colors work really well in color grading. All right, and the last thing we're gonna do is we're gonna click on this and we're gonna get our gradient map up again. And I am gonna go back up here to this file that we downloaded earlier. Now this is kind of weird because you have to take this out of the tabs to get it to work. So I've taken this out of the tabs and I'm gonna hit Command- to reduce it. And then we're gonna have to take this one out of a tab, and I'm just gonna reduce it down a little bit so we can get both of these on the screen. We'll put this one here and this one here. So we've got these colors and these colors, because sometimes selecting colors can be different. So if you didn't add these to your swatches, and we will just remove this, and assuming it doesn't exist, we can also add to a gradient map manually. So in the case here where I have these colors, if it is a different file, you can actually pick the colors. So what we're going to do is, this is our shadow color. So I'm going to come over here. I'm going to click on this twice, and it's going to bring up this color. I'm going to go over here and pick my darkest color, and that's going to add the darkest color there. In this case, we're going to actually do all 5 colors just so I can show you how to do this. Then you're going to come about a quarter of the way, halfway between this and this. So the next color, we're going to add halfway between half and here. So I'm just going to come over here, and I just need to get the right spot, and halfway in between, get that little symbol, and you're going to click, and it adds a new point. I will double click on that. I will click on the next darkest color, and I will hit OK. Then we're going to come over to the halfway point. Remember, you want the hand. Click. You're going to get the color. You're going to pick the middle color. Bring this back up. Then you're going to come over here, quarter of the way. Click. Set your new point. Pick the next color, which is this color. And then you're going to come here and pick the last color, which is this color. And you're going to go ahead and hit OK. So now you can see we've added all 5 of those colors to the gradient. In this case, I'm going to hit reverse because I want those colors to be going in the opposite way. Then I can come up here and do 2 things. One, I can dial some of that out because I think it is too much. Or in this case, I'm going to switch on over to color, and we'll dial some of that color back in. And now we're using all 5 colors to color grade this image. I'm not a huge fan of doing 5 colors, but some people might like that. And if you do, that is perfectly fine. You can use all 5 of these colors to color grade. And you can use 2 colors, 3 colors, 4 colors, 25 million colors. as many colors as you want to set. It's always up to you. We are going to go ahead and just bring this back up into our tabs. All right, and those are the different ways in which you can pick colors to use while color grading inside of Adobe Photoshop. Now, there are a few other ways that you can color grade. One would to be go back into Adobe Camera Raw, and that is something that I will show in a future video. But if you found this video helpful, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. If you have any comments or questions, you can leave those below. And as always, don't forget to subscribe.